So we will get started. Welcome, everyone. This is our panel, Tabletop RPGs at MAGFest, through the beautiful subtitle of Organized and Disorganized Play. Featuring games and organized play systems such as, surprise, surprise, Dungeons Dragons and Pathfinder, or as I personally like to refer to them, the Coke and Pepsi of the tabletop RPG world. This is brought to you by the respective departments for D&D and Pathfinder. This is our contact info. These are all the members of these departments to date. But for the people who are going to be talking at you for the next time being, hello, my name is Casey. I am the current department head of the Pathfinder Tabletop Department. I've been playing this game since probably 2014 and volunteering with it since about 2015 or 16 once I learned it was here at MAGFest. That is me dressed as Luigi in an inflatable go-kart running a half marathon.
You changed that picture from when we originally were doing this presentation.
I like having a full body profile so they know that I have legs and I'm not just a floating torso. So,
well, my picture is much different.
Oh, yeah. I think yours is better.
Thanks. So I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since the 70s. And I am one of, way back, Shippensburg State College, even before it was a state college, they had a summer class of Dungeons & Dragons. And I was able to go up there twice. And it was pretty cool. They had people from Tactical Studies, TSR, Tactical Strategic Rules, or something like that.
I'm just going to nod and say yes.
Yes. TSR basically sent people out, and we got symposiums on the outer planes and all types of like monster ecology type of things, and we also played Dungeons & Dragons.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Nice.
It was pretty fun.
All right. So, something that we're going to be doing for this presentation is using the Poll Everywhere application, ideally to get your live responses during this. So, if you could all please pull out your phone or other mobile device, as long as it has a signal of some kind, it should work. You're going to open a browser and go to pollev.com/CCROSON. If you get a register your name, sign up, log in, just hit a skip for now button. This is going to let us basically throw questions out to you guys, and we will be able to take them verbally, but some of them we're going to be taking through here, and if you think of something and you don't want to just say it out loud, this is also a great way to kind of share those thoughts. So I'm going to advance to the next slide, but the link at least to get signed up will still be there. And you can just kind of leave this up on your device. If you go through slides or it seems to freeze, just refresh it and it should resync with the connection for the presentation. So the first question for you all. How familiar are you with these tabletop role-playing games? A lot, a little, or not at all? And again, for anyone just coming in, if you want to join our live event polling, just pull out your device and go to pollev.com/CCROSON. Those who are correct in all of their open choice answers will receive a small prize, i.e. a non-monetary pat on the back after this. Right. For the next question, how familiar are you with organized play tabletop role-playing game systems? Your Pathfinder Societies, your D&D's Adventurers Leagues, your Chaosium Battle.nets, etc.
Does Pathfinder also run Starfinders?
Yes, indeed we do. The key thing is the finder at the end of the word.
At the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pathfinder, Starfinder, Tooth Finder, Ancestry Finder, all of those. They're branching out. They're branching out.
Schoolmate Finder?
Basically. All right. So why this topic? Why are we occupying roughly an hour of your time this afternoon to talk about these things? So our overall goal for this is to share the many, many, many different kinds of TTRPGs that are offered here at MAGFest. Mainly through the lens of both organized play and disorganized plays. That's what our two departments kind of specialize in. The ultimate goal is setting it up so that you guys can make whatever choice is best for you based on your own interests and involvement. We have no judgment publicly. I'll carry it in my heart, but I won't say anything out loud. Our outline, we've already gone through the introduction. We're going to talk about organized play, the advantages of it, the challenges of it, and how to get involved. We'll talk about disorganized play, advantages, challenges in getting involved, summary, conclusion, and then at the end, if there's time and people here are actually willing, I would love to see if we can get a panel to go through a short tabletop RPG adventure together. So if it works out, we'll see. Internet connection willing. Disclaimer. Everything in this presentation are our own personal experiences and opinions, therefore are not to be taken as facts, however well thought and intentioned they are. We are not sponsored by any companies, manufacturers, creators, or organizations mentioned until they return my calls. And there will be more games offered at MAGFest than we can directly address, so please remember to explore, find what suits you, just kind of let this be the kicking off point, let this be the, you all met at a tavern for your own adventure.
This is the tavern.
Yeah, basically.
Guidebook is your friend.
This is the tavern and guidebook is your menu.
Yes, exactly.
So, tabletop role-playing games. What is a tabletop role-playing game? Well, as many core rulebooks answer on the first page, a TTRPG is an interactive story where one player, the game master, sets the scene and presents challenges, while other players inhabit characters that live throughout that world and make decisions and all such things. As each scene leads into the next, they all contribute to the story, resulting into the overall narrative, and people roll dice to see how that works. By the looks I'm getting, I suspect that we're all familiar with this, so I will not linger here any longer. But what I would like to ask to you all is, in one word, what do you look for when choosing a role-playing game? And by that, let me reset this so that you can respond. There you go. Do you look forward to combat mechanics? Do you like socializing? Do you want to live out your best life as a pigeon?
Rolling the dice.
Mm-hmm.
Or the math rocks, as people say.
That sounds a lot more impressive than just dice.
Doesn't it?
I don't have dice. I have a math rock collection. I have to rebrand my shelves. Hijinks, that's a really good one. I like dice, chaos, story, collaboration, role-playing, emphasis on story, emphasis on role-playing as a pigeon. Thank you very much, kind attendee who took that idea. Just give it a few more seconds, see if there are any more passionate answers here. Click-clacks,
Yep.
improvisation. All right, so there are many things to kind of look for when choosing the role-playing game suitable for you, and this is just a sampling of them. And I now really need to see if there are any pigeon-based role-playing adventures that are available for the general public.
And if there's not, we need to make one.
Exactly, that's where the money is. There's a pigeon drought in this environment. All right, so organized play, my bread and butter. What is organized play? Well, as the slide will explain to you all, organized play is a kind of standardized, systematic way of engaging in TTRPGs, ideally one where you can make a character and take it to events, whether they be MAGFest, whether they be Gen Con, whether they be your local game store, local library, whether it be an online event run by someone in Germany. These games are all part of a continuing narrative, continuing story with these characters, and you can basically keep progressing no matter where or when you play.
And that includes also your next door neighbor's table, kitchen table also. When you start hearing organized, some people start to think over structure where you have to go somewhere to do it, and that's not necessarily the case. Mm-hmm. As long as you fulfill the requirements of the organizers, you're in.
Mm-hmm. And so the two main brands that at least our game systems run for this are D&D Adventures League and then Paizo Organized Play, which manages Pathfinder Society and Starfinder Society, amongst others. But what to expect? So, organized play adventures, they are episodic. Each game session is kind of its own one-shot adventure, typically about 2 to 4 hours long, and it will have a beginning, a middle, and an end, so you kind of get a good cohesive episode of a story each game you play. At the end of each game session, characters will receive kind of like a receipt that lists any experience earned, treasure found, extra parameters. Did you befriend someone? Did you really tick someone off? Any kind of special qualifiers for that may carry over or impact the next game session that they play. Organized play games are kind of, you can join them at your own schedule. It's not like committing to a weekly or monthly campaign. As long as something is being run in your area, you can sign up for however often you're available or drop off. Everyone has a life, and there's no judgment when people can't make it and all.
And we'll go into some of those. Some of that in detail is in the pros and cons section, I think.
Because that's a double-edged sword that I just said there. So how is organized play typically run? So games are set up using pre-written adventures by the publisher, by Paizo, by D&D, by kind of contracted or brought on authors and such. And they're typically written for a range of levels. So an introductory adventure may be for character levels 1 through 4. And then there are means of, if you have a level 1, 2, 3, and 4 character, there are ways of kind of balancing the challenge. So the level 1s aren't getting steamrolled and the level 4s aren't just coughing indirectly at something and it falls down dead. Game sessions typically last about 2 to 4 hours. I know most games, in my experience, they're advertised online, so you can kind of see a schedule ahead of time, sign up for it, reserve a spot. That's what we're doing here at MAGFest as well, and we'll be talking about that throughout if you want to play. But most places there always is some room for just kind of, hey, I'd love to sit down and try this game for a little bit. Is that possible? Yes, always yes. And for these games, you can either choose from a selection of pre-made characters, or you can create a character to begin or continue playing your adventure. Due to the nature of org play, there are some more limitations on character creation that we'll get into for the advantages and challenges and stuff. But the ultimate goal is to just keep everything a good, positive, standardized experience for everyone.
Yep.
The gameplay. The majority of scenarios are kind of rated PG to PG-13 for content. The level of violence or conflict can be toned to suit the audience at the table. It depends on the GM. I personally tend towards like comedy, so while like, you know, a killing blow, I will either pass it to the player, try to describe as gratuitously as people seem comfortable with. I will often fall to Looney Tunes style antics and tactics in that regard.
Yeah, and we do definitely also try to establish safety tools.
Yeah.
The fade to black, the hey, I'm not comfortable with this. The when the modules are written, at least within the past couple of years, they tend to have trigger warnings and things like that, so that people are aware of what type of challenges may be faced by the players, so that they can discuss with the DM how to perhaps steer around certain things that they may not feel comfortable with.
Yeah, or like how to tone the dial on the, okay, do we want like aliens level horror, like body horror and stuff, or do we just want, let's pull it back a little bit so it's uncomfortable but not deeply concerning.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of these games are great for learn-to-play instances, whether it be your first time playing these kind of games in general, whether it be your first time with this rule system. I know all the GMs that I think both of our departments have try really hard to establish the baseline of, you know, what's expected in terms of the rules and mechanics. Try to have, you know, emphasize the fun while kind of understanding that, and really lean into the favorite phrase of role-playing, yes and, whenever possible. What would you like to do? Yes, and this is how you do it, and this is what happens next, and rocks fall and you now need to make a new character, but we had fun getting there at least. tracking. So before a game begins, Game Master, the person running it, will ask players to complete a sign-in sheet. It lists their player and their character. Afterwards, all the players will receive a tracking sheet that basically says, I played this game at this location at this time on this date, and I found all of these cool shiny things. Those travel with the player for their character. That's how they track their treasure. That's how they track their experience. It's how they level up and progress. And it's how the Game Masters make sure, oh, cool, you are a half-angel, dual chainsaw-wielding, shotgun-headed amalgamation of different rulebooks and systems, and shuffle through stack of paper. All of that is 100% legitimate. Okay, have fun. Let's see how you break the module this time, player.
Right.
I think in both of our systems, though, there's a different degree of intensity on this. However,
There is,
right?
definitely. Adventures League has never been like, it's had tracking, and at one point we were also using DCI numbers. That was what they used for Magic the Gathering people tracking, but it's kind of gotten away from that. You should still keep track, because you are supposed to keep track of the modules you play, so that you can say, yes, this is why I have this +3 sword of slaying or whatever, and this is how I got it. But you will see, and it varies all over the place, but for the most part, the standard is to have a tracking sheet so that you can establish your character's past.
So you can point to something and say, no, I actually did this thing. Please recognize my greatness. Thank you. Thank you, Game Master and other players. So, org play, advantages of this. It provides a standardized and balanced experience for all players. So like I said, this is a great way to kind of get introduced to a game, to learn a game system and mechanics, and to try something out.
This also helps with, as you said, if you're just starting off with playing, you go to your local game store, you go to a convention, you start off learning about the game, and then it can be a springboard for either continuing with organized play or going into that disorganized that we'll talk about later.
Branching out into your own. However, it's a great way to kind of learn, this is how the game works and how this is run. Do you like that or not? Do you like elements of this or not? What would you want to change if you were running your own game, etc.? These games can be played whenever and wherever they fit the availability of the player. Like I said, they can be found here at MAGFest, they can be found at other major conventions, they can be found at your local game store, comic store, library, online. There is a plethora of opportunities for these, and they are all flexible and understood that everyone has a life and requirements as they go on.
I really think that organized play came about because people my age started growing up and we could not spend 16 hours a day playing a role-playing game like we wanted to or like we were able to as teenagers.
Yeah, I got into this when I moved to a new city and knew no one, and then realized my local game shop was like, oh, Pathfinder Society, what's that? Oh, it's a game that I can play, and I don't have to know anyone ahead of time. I can just show up. All right, sign me up. That's great.
And how many friends do you still have from that?
Probably about a good dozen.
Yeah.
So, characters progress through trackable means with rewards earned, so you pretty much always will have a feeling of success after about 2 to 4 hours of gameplay, and you always get something afterwards. It may not be the coolest, shiniest thing, but you always get some kind of reward for your character after each game has finished. And one of the most important things, like we mentioned before, is it offers a large community and opportunities for connecting with other players. Organized play is a great way to meet other people for that game system and kind of build your pool if it's something you want to get into more. Speed along a little bit. Organized play, it offers structured rules and guidelines. So when you want to do something, there is usually a rule for it. It's less open to interpretation, less open to GM fiat, so kind of everyone has a fair plane of what to do, what not to do, what's expected, though there is some diversity in that.
Yeah. There's, like, you might have, when you come into an encounter, there's 4 goblins, 8, depending on the strength, 4 goblins, 6 goblins, 8 goblins, you know, and they could be pink or yellow. That's your DM fiat. But the number is kind of standardized because it's been templated out to this is the difficulty that we want the players to go through at that phase of the module.
this is what will give them a decent challenge, but will be fair on both sides in terms of rules. Orgplay draws from a huge library of professionally written content. There's a wide variety of adventures and stuff to choose from. Some may suit individual tastes more so than others, but I personally struggle with, ironically, the storytelling aspect of these games and kind of building that narrative. And so having essentially a script to pull from is super, super, super helpful, especially when starting off as a GM. And then these games, you're free to join up and continue them as much as you want to. There's no long commitment. You're not breaking anyone's heart if you're not able to meet sessions anymore. It's as much as you want to do, when you're able to do, etc.
Yeah, it really cannot be understated how easy it is to be able to jump in and jump out and then jump back in based off of your life. And you don't have to be with the same crowd. You can see how your character fits inside of a table, and then the next week you're with a whole new group of people with your same character, and you're going to get a different experience because your player might have synergies that some groups won't have, that you'll be able to bounce off of, and others may not.
Challenges. So like I said before, it is standardized. This means that everyone has to kind of play by the same set of rules, which may kind of limit individual creativity or choices. On building off of that, there is then less flexibility in character creation and customization. Right off the gate for the Pathfinder org play, at least, everyone kind of has a narrow band of options. It's a deep band, but it is narrow. But the more you play in the system, the more you kind of earn access to different things. So
it's like unlocking.
Basically, yeah. It's the battle pass of TTRPGs. The more you start off with a human, an elf, a dwarf, play 3 games, cool. You can now play a catfolk. You can now play a small frog person. You can now play a stuffed animal with the living soul wedged inside of it. So the more you play, the more you are rewarded within that regard. But starting off, you do kind of have some rails on you for that.
Right. And in Dungeons and Dragons, originally it was the player's handbook, which is you could have everything that was in that initial book, and then plus 1 expansion book. So that when you were creating a character, but over time, and that was for many different reasons, mostly to help the dungeon masters be able to understand all of their players. Because when you have a lot of books, like Casey was saying, you have such a wide variety of choices, and each of those synergies can start to become like a huge Venn diagram of multiple options.
Or a huge way to slow down a game when you say, oh, and I cast this spell. Where's that from? What book? What does it do? How many dice? And this is fair. Where is it from again? I need to write that down for my own character. Okay.
Right. Or
you win.
Right. Or, oh, you're making me re-roll one of my dice because of a spell. Where'd you get that spell? That spell is not in the books that we are allowing, Yeah. And so it's like you're going to have to change your character to,
You do have to kind of weigh on that side a few times. Because it's all pre-written, there's a potential for lack of variety and repetition in gameplay. Great thing about org play adventures, each one has a series of combat encounters. There's likely some social intrigue and like a puzzle solved to 2. Bad thing about organized play adventures, you know that there will be at least 3 combat encounters, there will definitely be some social intrigue, and then you're going to have to sit through a puzzle, whether it's fun or not. So either or, pick your poison in that regard. Because of how the time that's allocated for these and kind of how they're slotted and scheduled, depending on the pace of it, some experiences can feel rushed. You may have to kind of pare down character introductions. You may have to pare down role-playing to ensure that, the final encounter is big and bad, that everything kind of gets its time. So sharing focus is very, very important and a great way to practice it for these adventures.
Yeah, because you want the players to also feel special, that you want them to exist, and the player spending time trying to breathe life into their character, and you want to give them that time, but you also have 6 other people, at the table that you're trying to let them have their moment in the light. and you're trying to also breathe life into the environment that they're in. And that can take time. And when you only have a 2-hour slot and you spend 15 to 20 minutes painting that picture, it starts to make the rest of the module start to become high-paced.
Org play is kind of like, this is an episode in the lives of these adventures and stuff. So it's short, it's a bridge, it's going to have like its own little micro plot and arc. You may be able to share something with people at the table, but it's more for your own kind of personal interest and amusement. Jody, this was yours at the bottom, and it was a great line, if you can see.
As I said, I basically said that it's pretend with stricter rules. And it really does kind of go into that, where role-playing in itself is let's pretend with some rules put in, but then organized play just adds that tempo and a standardized set that we're trying to all roll through, so that if you're here at MAGFest, and then in 2 or 3 weeks from now you decide to drop by the local game store and play a game, you could literally take the character and start building up from something very standardized to make it your own, but still it exists inside of a standardized set of rules.
So, question for everyone here. Why might someone choose to join an organized play game based on all the pros and cons that we've just shared? If I don't see chaos and or pigeons up there, I will be personally disappointed.
Pigeons.
So yeah, continuity, that's great. Like we said, it is you make a character and then they can travel wherever you go. Availability and convenience. Pretty much almost anywhere has a game running. You can find them at these events. Yeah, so structure and scheduling really seem to be kind of like the main ones, and that was what got me into it the first off of the thank you chaos of knowing that, like, here's a thing, I can join it when I want to, I can drop off when I want to, I can be a pigeon when I want to. Thank you.
Chaos pigeons.
Chaos pigeons. Thank you, MAGFest. Bless all of your chaotic little hearts. Easy to try something new. Yeah. Like I've been saying, this is a great way to learn a game, learn a system, whether it's your first time playing or first time with that rule.
And it really is like that with organized DMs, is that they know that they're kind of getting a lot of new people. And I'm sure with Pathfinder, with Dungeon, I'm still stunned at how many people still come in and they've never played before, whether it's the latest D&D movie, whether it was Thrones, HBO. Dragons.
Big budget syndicated TV franchises.
Yes.
Game of Thrones,
Yes.
your Stranger Things.
Exactly. All of those different things. Every time something like that hits, it brings people in to at least dab their their toe into the water and see what it's like. And a lot of times it's organized play that they're dabbing their toes into, because it's a lot friendlier, because they don't have to try to find a group of unknown people. They can go to a store and there's unknown people there, but at least it seems to be a lot more inclusive.
The work of finding and scheduling has already been done. You don't have to wrangle your friends together on a Saturday. You can say, or I could just individually go on a Wednesday afternoon and do this. So a few four things here, just for anyone who's interested in joining organized plays with a GM and a player. We have some tips for you. Game masters, communicate with your players before the session as to what expectations for it are. This is table decorum, anyone's preference in using language and swears, like Jody had mentioned before, safety tools and how to kind of manage those expectations. Location decorum, if you're at a convention, how loud can we be? What needs to be done in terms of respecting other tables and such, whether it be convention, a library, or similar. Whether any niche rules or mechanics are used. Hey guys, for this adventure, we're going to be doing Mad Max style horse and carriage combat. Here's the page you should look to in all of your rule books, and we'll stumble through it together, etc. The second one is one of the biggest things for me as both a GM and a player, is to make sure to share the focus amongst everyone. Sometimes it's intentional, sometimes it's unintentional, but if it turns out that one character starts kind of having too much main character energy, that can really rob the experience from the other players who are also volunteering their time and interest to do that. So share the focus amongst all of them. If someone is taking the lead, that's great, let them do that, but as they're taking the lead, check in with the other players to say, cool, so the headstrong fighter goes in to kick the door in, what you all see them walk up, what do you do as they prepare to do that or in response?
It really is one of those things where you have to take a temperature of the room and who you're playing with and understand. In some cases, it may be a girlfriend who's bringing a boyfriend into play or vice versa, and they've never played before, and so they're just taking they're taking the back seat to that person who has played before. But letting that person, see that they can speak and be their own characters is part of the role-playing experience.
Mm-hmm. And all in the context of creating the space for everyone to participate as much as they may individually choose to. Some people are more vocal, others are more quiet, and that's fine. It's just ensuring that everyone has that fair chance to do stuff.
Exactly.
Yep. Pre-draw your maps, Game Masters. If you use visual maps, pre-draw them, especially the last one first. I have had 20 minutes in a time slot, and I've been rapidly trying to count blocks on how a tilted cavern signs up, and that is not fun for anyone. Also, tell your players what means what in terms of color and design. I should have mentioned this before, but everything we talk about in this presentation, we're going to have a QR code and a URL with links to resources afterwards. So if you want to sign up, if you want to use any of the things that we share, you can get it there. But the link on this slide, that is the evaluation rubric for the Pathfinder organized play system. If you just kind of want to get an idea of how could I improve, that's a great way to look. Tips for Game Masters, speeding up again. Stay up to date with rule guides when published. Join communities via Discord, Reddit, and similar to ask questions. Prep your game by reading the scenario beforehand to understand how it works and do any... Players love to have creative solutions, and it's great to roll with that, but you have to understand how the narrative was written in order to do that to begin with.
The rule of thumb is basically for every hour you plan on playing, you should probably prep for about 2 hours for each hour that you're going to be actually sitting and playing.
Okay.
At least that's been a. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you're going to have to prep for 4 to 6 hours for something, but you should kind of, as you said, spend time on the maps, spend time understanding the modules, the characters. It lets you start to get familiar with them so that when the players start to go off the rails a little bit, those characters are your voice in bringing them back in, and you can still stay within the same tenor and tone of the module by becoming more familiar with it.
Kind of like when the players start to color outside the lines, you can kind of pull and stretch the lines a little bit to encompass and yes and their decisions while keeping it moving forward.
Right, and it doesn't have to feel like it's the dungeon master who's telling them that. It's the environment bringing them back to the path.
Nice.
In a sense.
Pre-roll initiatives, use on-deck systems for initiative order. You'll have access to these at the end if you guys want to review them. Tips for players. Have an idea of what you want your character to do. You don't have to have level 1, level 2, level 3 completely written out, but at least think of, okay, I want to play a barbarian, but I want them to be really, really social, and as they get stronger, they're not only more physically powerful, they learn new languages and can influence people in different ways, whether it's screaming in their face or talking politely to them. Keep track of your documents, as we mentioned before, those tracking sheets. Keep them up to date, keep them organized and with you. There's nothing more than I love of a good Sunday afternoon of just re-going through all of my character receipts and remembering adventures past and counting my fake fantasy money. Here's a big thing. If you find that you made a character, that you had an idea, it's great in your head, but playing it isn't quite as fun, you can remake them. You can rebuild characters if you're not enjoying it. You can replay scenarios if you've wanted to do another test run for them. There are limitations to how often you can play certain scenarios. And you can only have one character in a given game at a time, but I don't think in either of our systems there's a limit to the number of different characters you can have. Right. So create your rainbow, create your dormitory of adventurers, and then adjust them as needed as you see fit.
And you could take Grok the Barbarian through an adventure, and then 4 weeks later, if that same adventure is being offered at the game store, you could take, Samantha Wist, the wizard, through that same adventure, and each of them may get something different out of it, with items and stuff like that. But you are going through the same module twice, but the characters are not.
Like we said with the Game Master, make sure to share the spotlight amongst your fellow players, check in with them, ask how their characters are thinking and feeling about things, just help everyone have a good shared time. Make use of the pre-generated characters that come with these systems, whether you just want to grab a person, roll dice, and hit the table, or if you say, I've never made a psychic elf before, but this person has. Let me copy from this sheet and kind of get an idea of how that can begin, and then you can put your own spin or flavor on it. And then kind of along with the plan your character build, it's good to kind of know what role you will fill in a group. What do you want your character to be very, very good at, and how can you contribute that to your party? With org play, it's hard because you may not always know what everyone is bringing, but as long as you can say, okay, I'm really great at melee combat, and I'm also pretty knowledgeable about things, that pretty much ensures that you're able to fill a hole, fill a role in that regard. I personally suggest that whenever you make a character, give them some kind of like movement skill, athletics, acrobatics, stealth, give them some kind of knowledge, give them some kind of social skill. It means that it may not be the best in the situation, but you can at least do something when those challenges arise, rather than like, well, all my rolls right now are negative, so I'm just gonna sit back and wait for everyone else to solve the problem.
Right.
More on organized play. This is a recording from MAGFest 2022, where they talk about D&D Adventures League. This is a great resource, which is, again, available to you all at the end of this presentation if you go through our link. I think the video will play, but we will not watch it. How to get involved. Thank you all for sitting through that long section, longer than I intended when I wrote this. At MAGFest, apologies, Jody, this is largely Pathfinder facing, but if you would like to join either Pathfinder games and or D&D games, go to National Harbor 8 in the main convention site. RiverView is tabletop. We are tabletop, but different. But both of our departments are basically going to be running games from morning to midnight every day of MAGFest this year, so come by, check us out, talk to us. If you also look in the guidebook listing for our departments, there will be links to sign up and register for games. Yeah. We have Pathfinder organized play games. There's D&D Adventures League. There are non-Pathfinder and D&D TTRPG games being run. So if you know that you're free at a certain time, check guidebook and use those links. If you just want to drop by, sign up and see what's being offered, National Harbor 8. We can lead you through character creation, or we can just give you a character if you want to hit the ground running. And after the game, you will get stuff. You can keep playing, whether it be here, whether it be next MAGFest, or back home, wherever that may be for you.
And while we did cover 2 to 4 hour time frames for modules, I don't know about Pathfinder, but Adventures League, we're going to be offering 1 hour sessions. Oh, cool. So that you can actually come up and play through a mini module. That, and then what's nice is that the entire big module is 5 hours long, but it's made up of 5 1-hour modules. So if you play today for an hour, and then Friday you're busy, but then Saturday you have like 2 hours available, you could come and play that. And so you could end up playing for 5 hours and see the entire story of the module, but that 1 hour is there to give you an intro.
Cool. Organized play in your community. Games are often offered at game stores, libraries, and schools and universities. So if you attend a game or comic store, if you have a library, if you are in school or at a university, check in there, check their website, check their schedule, ask them. That is a great spot to see if they are scheduling or running these things. If you want to play online or find where things are scheduled virtually, warhorn.net and meetup.com are two of the biggest places that I know of to look for organized play games and sign up for them. There is also the site startplaying.games. It is paid sessions, but if there's something that you really, really want, a particular adventure, i.e. chaos-driven barbarian pigeons, check on that in a few months and we'll see if it's listed there. But that is a good spot to kind of see if you want that specific experience. Right. And finally, if you can't find something available and are interested, talk to those venues before and see if you can maybe organize or start something at them. Any questions about organized play? If you want to respond through this or if you just want to ask us, because I realize we're burning a lot of time on this section, please feel free. All right, with the collective silence, no, we will move on. Thank you all. Disorganized play. I did not make that image. I found it online. The signature is under the people, but it's the best representation of this experience that I've ever seen. Disorganized play. It is everything that is not what we just talked about. It is you are playing a game. It is your rules. It is how you want to do it. It is in your setting and in your world. It is the full, customized, atypical tabletop role-playing game experience.
As it says, we've been calling it disorganized play, but a lot of people just call it homebrew. Mm-hmm. That is predominantly what people would call it. But we were just trying to alliterate.
For the sake of the title of this panel, which is the most important thing in any given thing, what you name it. That's what we went with. Disorganized play. Advantages. You're in complete control of everything. You can bend it to your whim. You can adjust rules on the fly. You can make it what you want. You could have sparrows rather than pigeons, should you wish. This is where the character creation and customization, just those guidelines drop off. Make what you want, interpret it how you want, set the stage with what you want. Players and game masters have greater control over the game world, and while in org play games, the narrative is pre-written and there is kind of that wiggle room, the game master can, ideally give as much time, attention, and resources to the players as they want and as they wish, rather than kind of keeping it in that episodic format. Advantage is you can make more unique and memorable experiences. Players can determine the length of the game. Do we want to play for a weekend? Do we want to play for the summer? Do we want to play until we can't anymore, etc.? Characters can be tailored for specific campaign or world depending on the setting that you want. You can be in space, you can be underground, you can be underwater, I guess. You can be in any interpretation of things.
I mean, and in some cases, you could literally just steal the plot line from any of the aforementioned movies that we,
any of those major big budget TV series and films.
And
you can
just play through it like that, but this time you make the decisions, and now the game master has to figure out how to deal with the repercussions of that and how that game would respond.
We're going to play A Song of Ice and Fire, the family tree game, where we go through all of the ancestry choices in all of these books and figure out who actually is related to who and why that gets weird in a few cases. Challenges. With
this one's huge. Greater potential for unbalanced encounters, because you start seeing your characters making these huge, monster characters at first level, and as the dungeon master, you're trying to create a challenge for them, but at the same time, you're not trying to squash them like bugs. But it's hard sometimes to do because you don't understand how their interactions may superpower their abilities when they all work together, and then you're just trying to be like, do I throw 10 goblins at them, or do I just throw a black dragon at them and see what happens?
I always go with the Black Dragon. I'm going to get the system wrong. I think it's Savage Worlds or something like that. But a friend told me there's one game system where like you can make a character where at level 1 could basically wrestle an adult black dragon to the ground and have that kind of unlimited power. But at the same time, every turn you take, there's a chance that just your heart may explode. So it's kind of the balancing factor. Less support and guidance from published materials. You can choose how much you want to dip into it. You can easily use organized play resources for your disorganized play homebrew campaign to kind of base that off as much as you want. But that's a choice that the players and the game master have to take.
You'll see that a lot also in some of the podcasts where they'll go from like one book and then it merges to another book that merges into another book. And it's, and that's what you could do in homebrew. You can make all of those books your own.
Yeah. Organized play can become disorganized if you wish, or it can like stem out from that. But disorganized play / homebrew cannot turn into an organized play game. Asterisk. There can be confusion over the scope and the intent of the game. That's why it's always good to have a session 0 lay out what are we going to be playing? What's the plot? How does everyone fit into that and all?
And that goes hand in hand with the PG-13. How dark do you want to get this? And what's nice about disorganized play is it allows you, because you are bringing in a group of people that are going to be consistently, or in theory consistently, playing together. And you can be like, hey, these are the things I'm not comfortable with, but I'm comfortable with everything else. And it can really make it more visceral and more exciting, but it also makes it a challenge for the dungeon master.
Yeah, just to balance all of that. And then finally, limited character portability. Like I said, you can make org play characters. They can travel to all events and stuff. If you make a really, really, really banging homebrew character, but then that campaign kind of falls apart, you can remake the character, but it may not be the same in that regard. They're kind of, each character is kind of in their own setting, in their own campaign in that regard. Why might someone choose to join or run a disorganized play game? Oh, lovely audience. I think my favorite disorganized play memory is I once made a septuagenarian barbarian named Bowels the Irritable, who the whole adventure was he wanted to go on a camping trip with his grandson, and he ended up being ripped apart by dragons on Mars.
Mr. IBS?
Yes. Thank you. He was awesome. R.I.P. Bowels.
So many pigeons.
Unlimited storytelling. That and pigeons and freedom, yes. It is the nice, orderly, exactly, well-maintained, polite, just really, really, really courteous play sessions.
GM go wild.
Yeah, that is I honestly look at homebrew games and I get intimidated because I'm like, all this creativity and choices. It's like being told to write an essay on anything. I just freeze in that regard.
Right. Well, I think also one of the challenges as a GM for disorganized play is trying to make a cohesive, internally consistent world and environment where, so that when people go back to it, if they go back to that inn, you know what that inn's name is, and it's run by this guy named Fat Mar, who is thin, but, or whatever. And, all of these different things, you want to make sure that something that you just say out loud and was just as a connector for the story might mean something to one of your players that ends up like 3 or 4 months back, they're like, we should go back to this inn and talk to that person again. And you're like, what inn? I was like, I just created that on the spot. And now, so it becomes very much like whenever you create a place, a mountaintop, a valley, you have to start taking you should be taking notes, because players will want to come back to some of those things, because they'll be like, well, remember you said that all ravines have caverns, and we're looking for a book that's hidden in a cavern. Well, remember the first day that we started playing, we went through a ravine. Maybe there's caverns there, and you're like, that was 6 months ago. Where is that?
Mm-hmm. Or in my case, just say like, oh man, it's really weird. There was a timely earthquake that shifted the tectonic plates in that area, so we'll just see what we get at this time. Who knows if it still exists? Tips for GMs, we are approaching the end of our time, so I will speed through some of this. Assume a lot of things that we said for organized play. Conduct a session 0, talk about what the goal of the game is, what players want from it, and how to get involved. Let players know when any niche mechanics will be used to kind of focus on the gameplay and less time opening and going through rule books. This has been big for me, especially after the pandemic and lockdown. Determine what can be done synchronously when you're all actually playing, and then what can be done asynchronously. Do you set up a Discord channel for like in-character conversations around the campfire, and then when you're actually together, you focus on advancing the plot? Do you do item management and like shopping via email and kind of track those things? Do whatever you want for your group to emphasize the fun and to kind of remove the time from things that could slow down or impede that. Find alternate means. Tips for players, discuss the theme of the game and whether certain character choices should or shouldn't be used. Are you a ranger that specializes in fighting undead? Is this a sci-fi scape where the plague of necromancy has been wiped out and no undead exist? Those are two things that do not go well together, and a good thing to know before you commit to playing. And then have an idea of who will be doing what in the party, whether you want it to be a well-balanced mix or an intentional mishmash. I've played a game where we were a band of sorcerers, each one with a different bloodline, but the entire adventure was we all take 1 5-foot step back and cast a rainbow of magic at the thing. So yeah.
3 barbarians, 3 paladins.
Perfect balance. No comments. Or as I say, maybe your party has no healing. That's great. The best way to stay alive is to kill the enemy first. So a few more things on Disorganized Play. Obsidian Brews, they are a black tabletop gaming group. They presented in 2023 and had a lot of really good points about kind of creating and customizing and making your own homebrew game. They're going to be back here at MAGFest 2025 on Saturday. Strongly recommend checking them out, along with a recording here that I will skip past. And also just last year, the panel, The Epic Highs and Lows of D&D Villainy. Sloan and Liv, they did a great job in talking about how to create memorable villains and encounters for your campaign that aren't just, I have tied you to the rails because I am evil and that is what I did because evil is what I am, but how to really kind of sow the seeds of befriending someone and them turning on you, and how to make that sting for your players, of how to really kind of make these memorable, lasting antagonists that when you go up against them, it really means something. Strongly recommend watching this if you have a chance as well. Skip ahead. How to get involved? Well, coincidentally enough, we're doing things here at MAGFest. As mentioned before, in the National Harbor 8 and beyond area, the D&D department, they're going to be running some disorganized play, kind of homebrew-esque games in a variety of different systems. You can sign up for them via the attractions site or with links through the guidebook apps. There's also, right beyond these walls, the MITS MAGFest Indie Tabletop Showcase that has a number of TTRPGs running and offering there. You can see the full list in the guidebook app to see what strikes your fancy. What is on the screen here are a few of the options that are there, and just admittedly the first ones that I saw. You can also meet people here when playing these games and see if there's anyone local to your area that you can continue your gaming with. For home, outside of MAGFest, a lot of the things that we discussed for organized play, warhorn.net, meetup.com, Discord, Reddit, stuff like that, and just going to your local gaming stores, these are great ways to check in and see, is there already a population of people that do this, and to kind of get into how that can be done. And then the biggest thing here is, if there's a game you want to play, it is always easier to get your friends together and offer to run it than it is to find people who you have space that you can join. This is also a great way to become a forever GM. Speaking as a lifetime forever GM. So what I would strongly recommend is if you have a game night, have it say, okay, I will bring Chaos Pigeon Warriors, but Jody, once we play a game with this, you bring something that you run, and we'll all kind of get a sampling of that.
Boring, orderly starlings.
I love it. Any questions about disorganized play? Did you want to send through poll everywhere or just shout out to us? Universal silence is good, so thank you. Summary and resources. I did not update this slide. So, placeholder. Thank you all so much for listening to our talk about this. It's been great, and we hope that you're able to use this to your advantage. This QR code and the URL here, this will link to resources that we have made, contact info for the Pathfinder and D&D departments here at MAGFest, links to the warhorn.net, meetup.com sites, links to our respective game systems organized play accounts. You can kind of look into them and experiment with them as you go. We'll probably be adding or updating them a little bit, as I admittedly, I think, made this at 11 o'clock at night on Monday of this week. So we'll see. But
I think in the end, just coming up to the National Harbor space and walking in and just kind of talking to some of the people at the admin's tables will be able to kind of loop you in.
Yeah. Quickest thing is come to National Harbor 8 over in the main convention area. Talk to us. We'll be happy to discuss whatever you're interested in. Happy to help you get set up. All that and more. Thank you all so much for adventuring with us today. But I do have a question for you all. If you want, there's no pressure here because it relies on poll everywhere and devices. We have 4 minutes till we give the space over. Do you want to see if we can run a panel through a short adventure? Or would you like your time to go through and live your lives at your convention? I saw a head nod. I saw some yeses. All right. If you want to duck out, please feel free. The doors are not locked. If you want to stay and go campaigning with us, hope we roll high. Welcome, everyone, to Pole Finder, an adventure in, I think it's about 15 slides, that I have made on the spot. Interpreting it from the Torment and Legacy demo adventure written by one Stephen Radney McFarland of Paizo. The adventure begins, and in one word, what motivates our adventurers? Why do they go off exploring, and what sets them on their quest? Money for chaos pigeons. That'll work. Violence.
Bored.
If you see an answer you like, type it in again, and it will get bigger, and that is what we will go with.
So many pigeons.
Mm-hmm. Violence. Dank. We are questing for dank. We are questing for dank cheese for our pigeons.
Go cheese. The pigeons who ate our cheese.
Word clouds are fun. Questing for boredom, questing for swag, questing for string. All right. Surprise, surprise. Pigeons are what motivate our adventurers, whether to acquire them or whether to flee from them. We will see. For anyone coming in or anyone at the back, if you want to join this short game, please feel free to try to snag the QR code on the next slide. So the next question is, what is our adventuring party called? If you open a browser on your mobile device and go to pollev.com/CCROSON, you too can suggest an offering. And if you see a name that you like on your device, give it a thumbs up. We will go with whichever one has the most thumbs. Also, if you're someone wandering in, there's a running theme of pigeons in this panel that I did not anticipate when I was writing it. The flock and the dank pigeons have now taken the lead, or an avian neck and neck. All right, so our party is the flock, adventuring for pigeons. So, you've come to your quest. How do you wish to proceed? An ogre has kidnapped the local elder of a village. Do you draw weapons and kick the door in combat? Do you move in cautiously and stealthily?
Pigeon wrangler.
Yes. How does the flock progress? All right, we'll be approaching cautiously and stealthily, so I will roll mine d20 here.
You rolled an 8.
So with an 8, it's a fair start.
With another 8 modifier.
Yeah, so that's a total of 16. So it's a good beginning, but sadly the ogre does notice us. We move to combat. It's the fighter who's up first. What do? Do they stride forward and strike? Do they step up carefully to set up flanking for their roguish ally? Or do they leap ahead, raising both arms to just whirlwind attacks at the enemy? All right. Stepping up carefully to set up flanking, they place themselves in an advantageous position. With their remaining actions, they can either make a single attack, raise a shield, or drive both swords into said ogre. All right, letting fly with both weapons. They swing, we roll.
A 12.
A 12. So, one hit as their longsword strikes the flesh of the ogre. One miss as the short sword barely misses. But, distracting them, it's the rogue's turn. What should they do, panel? Approach stealthily to catch them off guard. Stride forward to meet the fighter in flanking. Harry them from range. Or, a fourth option is down here. Deal emotional damage and distract them.
Your mother smelled like a kobold.
Oh, God. My mother smelled like a naga, thank you very much. All right. The rogue, taking advantage of the situation to deal emotional damage, lets loose with a tirade of insults and jabs, hurting the ogre in their most vulnerable spot, their brain and their heart. With the remaining action, they can leap in to take advantage of the fighter's flank. Do they strike from the shadows? Strike and then hop away to safety, or hide behind a nearby bush.
Or see more.
Various iterations of stepping up and stabbing a thing. All right, surprise attack has it. So, the rogue, with flanking advantage, will strike.
6.
Oh, tough roll, but with flank, that will help. So they're able to deal precision damage into the ogre's kidney, a harsh and vulnerable spot for all ogres. But because of that, our ogre is now able to take their turn. They're ready their attack. Does the fighter raise the shield to block it? Does the rogue leap back to dodge? Does the wizard conjure a magical ball of force? Or does the cleric just pray? Pray for help, cleric.
Hopes and prayers.
All right. Evens for the fighter, odds for the rogue.
5.
Coming for the rogue. The cleric prays to someone above. And it is not answered as the ogre buries their hook-like axe into... What's your favorite part of a rogue?
My favorite part of the rogue?
Your favorite part of a rogue?
Their mouth.
Their mouth. Into the rogue's mouth goes the hook axe, pinning them like some nimble fish. Fortunately, it is the cleric's turn now.
I caught.
Begging to their deity? Do they lend guidance and aid to an ally? Shoot a magical ray of healing light to someone, like the rogue? Cast shield on themselves? Or blast the opponent with fire? Neck and neck between heal and harm. All right. Odds we heal, evens we harm. Odds we heal. So, praying to someone above. Who does the cleric invoke in this prayer? Thank you, MAGFest. I am in no way surprised by any of these answers. Unsurprisingly, the cleric of the flock prays to the pigeon above, and their prayers are answered on winged gifts as a ray of soothing healing magic washes over the rogue.
And feathers.
Yes, and feathers, giving them a really sweet scar on the side of the cheek. Final action. Should the wizard cast something? Should they cast something? Should they cast something? Or take a nap?
I'm not the one who opened the door to the ogres.
All right, cast something has taken a clear and definite lead. So, in one word, what spell does the wizard cast?
I think it should be ogre be gone.
Dissonant pigeon? Power word scrunch? Should we have a spell named fire pigeon or pigeon ball?
Ogre be
Thank you,
gone.
affirmative answer from the back. Unsurprisingly, again, praying to the good pigeon above, the wizard casts their mightiest spell, Pigeon, letting loose a flock of the gentle avians flying directly at the ogre.
He's blinded.
Okay. I landed
Save.
right on a 9, so I'm not sure, everyone. Does the party succeed, or are they utterly defeated without mercy by the ogre? It's too close for me to make the call. Taking a pessimistic bend, sadly, it looks like the flock was vanquished right here, right now, on this spot.
They don't have to be they're not killed. Sometimes the best stories are when they come from a loss.
That is true, that is true. But even then, the best stories always leave something behind. So finally, in one word, what legacy does the flock leave from their adventure today? As if I couldn't have guessed.
Pigeon.
They left a trail of breadcrumbs.
Yeah. You know, pardon the pun, but here I was worried about that joke getting stale. The legacy of breadcrumbs for the flock and their pigeons is how we will remember them on this adventuring day. Well,
That was definitely very fun.
yeah. And that is our final slide. So thank you all for playing Pole Finder with me, everyone. Thank you all so much for your time and attention here. Come check us out at National Harbor 8. We're both going to be skedaddling up there now to get ready for our first sessions of the event. And happy MAGFest, everyone. Thank you all.
Take care.